been a long journey this split, folks. 8 whole weeks of Aegis Champions League regular season action, but we are at the finish line for the first half. Last game here for CCG Esports, one of our teams in our staple matchup. Can't say the same for Supernova Dark Matter on the other side. They were the rescheduled Kings, but they will be playing their 6th match. A very, very decisive one if they would like to make playoffs, Quacks, as they are the one spot. They're one spot out of the playoffs currently as we go into this matchup against one of the top dogs in Noxus.
An uphill battle. And this was something that, Slayer, you and I in particular, after covering a couple of games from SNDM, we're thinking probably wasn't going to be the case. This team, they started out 3-0, but then ever since those games, those first few series, they have had kind of a downwards trajectory, and it's going to be up to them in these last 3 matches, this all-important week number 8, to rise to the occasion. And this is easily going to be the most volatile matchup. Supernova, I believe their other matches are going to take place against Dorado Gaming White, and then they are also going to be going up against Weber. So those are definitely more winnable matchups than this. If they can get it right here, right now, if they can get a win against CCG Slayer, the road to playoffs would be much easier and much smoother from here on out. But it is a tall task. CCG are the top dogs in Noxus for a reason. They've got the top talent in, basically the entire ACL as a whole. Some of the best players are on this team for a reason. And we are going to see that on display here in this series. Like you said, Slayer, week number 8, and we are just firing away through the draft, my friend.
Yeah, we're trading patented 80 carries. There's not a lot of great ones to come by currently, but seems like we decided a handshake. All right, Dark Matter will take Ash, get that one onto Thomas, and we see the lock-in for the Corki on Array there. Just a reminder on some of these lineups. The CCG Esports side is obviously no one to scoff at. They were the top seeded tier team going into this draft. It is Crimson in the top lane, Kryra playing mid lane, Aljun in the Kryra in the jungle, Aljun in the mid lane, Array and Trevor duo up for the bot side. And on the flip side, you got Supernova Dark Matter, Prank top side, Shimmer in the jungle, Popcorn playing in the mid lane. Thomas links up with Quokka for the support role as the Ivern.
Yep.
Very powerful pick. I like it next to the Corki, kind of telling what CCG Esports might want to go with their draft.
I mean, it's no wonder, right? We're expecting this Corki to go toward the bot lane and be in the hands of Array, and this is a player that has garnered a lot of hype around him, especially in those most recent Summer Open qualifiers. He was arguably the best player in that entire tournament. That entire season was just dominated by him. So putting him in the hands of one of the best champions in the game, in the Corki, and then pairing it up with the Ivern, very smart move by CCG's part. And Supernova Dark Matter, I'm wondering where they are going to put all of their eggs, because they've got the Ashe. This is not a champion you expect to be strong-sided. You expect it to be kind of used for that utility, that vision, and then that Enchanted Crystal Arrow later in the game. So where are you going to be playing toward if you're Supernova Dark Matter?
Does seem like potentially it could be towards the top side, as the PNW's top laner Prank will lock that one, lock the Rumble in. Got the Vi next to it, so a lot of early onset playmaking for the Supernova Dark Matter side. And for CCG Esports, yeah, it's just right towards that Ivern script, right? It's building up a pretty beefy front line, and we expect maybe a double marksman pairing to fly through. The Cassante going to be locked in there for Crimson, one of his staple champions. And if you were watching the Side.GG Combine, you watched this guy play quite a bit of Cassante. You also watched him play quite a bit of Rumble, probably his most famous champion by this point, Quack, so he knows the matchup.
Oh, absolutely he does. These are players that just got, I would say, a huge buff and experience. The Cedo Combine, for the participants that made it there, probably super insightful, super helpful in terms of what you're looking for habits-wise and how to improve as a player. So I'm interested to see how that Combine sort of changes players like Crimson, like Kryra that participated, and if we'll see a different version of them coming in this series, because this is the first look we've really had you and I, Slayer, since that happened. As we do continue to fire away through the bans, Supernova not too concerned about an additional marksman being added to the concoction that CCG have drafted up so far. That was something that you mentioned. You have an Ivern, you kind of expect the double marksman to come on through, but it doesn't look like that is necessarily a point of concern for Supernova, at least not now. And meanwhile, CCG's point of concern is in that mid lane. They ban away the Ahri, followed by the Orianna, and they're just really making sure that Popcorn, one of the X factors of Supernova, one of the players that makes this squad so special, doesn't get any of his comfortable mages.
Doesn't get any comfortable duos with the Vi from Shimmer as well. So just a staple two best pairings for Vi. Orianna and Ahri taken away there. Just support bans being thrown the way of Trevor so far, trying to make sure to cut down on the engage. And I do like that approach for Supernova Dark Matter because I think it's too hard to ban out a ton of these double marksmen. There are a lot of them. You see the Smolder, the Nyla even getting hovered.
Ooh.
But one thing this comp can lack is a go button. You know, Ivern's not really about that. Well, you're relying on a snare and a follow-up from maybe Daisy. Cassante can engage onto maybe one person. There's not much more past that. So taking away two of Trevor's premier champions does seem like a good play to start off, but I still see Rumble available. The Ezreal going to be locked in, though. Does signal that we're going to see the Corki go to Aljun and Ezreal head to the hands of Array, a champion that I know him a lot more for than the Corki.
Yes. Oh, yeah, he's famous on this champion, so I'm excited to see that. But Supernova now going to have to respond, I imagine, with a mid laner of their own. They know the Corki is there, and they are going to hover and lock the Nico. This is a champion that we have not been seeing a ton of action on throughout the ACL regular season, Slayer, but does provide a lot of team fighting, something that Supernova's comp is very comfortable doing. And I'm wondering if we're going to see that furthered with this support pick. I only have to imagine, I mean, this could technically be a Nico support that is flexible. We've seen that a couple of times, but you know, you can't beat Trevor at his own game. You're going against Trevor, the man who is known for those unorthodox supports. So you don't want a competition with him. It doesn't look like they're going to. It is going to be the Nico in the mid lane, followed up by the Rel. So yeah, team fighting galore here. Slayer 5v5s are the name of the game for Supernova Dark Matter and CCG. It seems like they also want to go for some team fights. They want to go for skirmishing as well with the Ivern, but I'm wondering if maybe they want something like a side lane threat to try and break up Supernova, but they don't have a ton of options. They're going to have to go for a support here. They probably want to index into that pick potential. They want to go button you like you said, so they're going to slam the Nautilus. A good matchup into the Rel, and also good for the things that, you know, the rest of the CCG comp want to play for, which is that pick.
Without a doubt. We're getting a classic here. Not much side lane threat. Even skirmishing, I don't know how much skirmish we're leaning on. There is obviously some big potential with an Ash Arrow, with a Vi, with a Nautilus available on the other side. But this is the textbook definition of Supernova Dark Matter are going to try and start off fights themselves with a ton of engaged tools that they have available to them. And CCG Esports, if they can survive those initial blows with the Ivern shields, Cassante's takiness, Nautilus' ability to, and Corki and Ezreal patently being two marksmen that can kind of self-peel a bit, allow them to just stretch these fights out. And if they stretch them out, the Ezreal, the Corki, they only ramp up in damage. And if you don't get that initial Pop Blossom, you know, cease and desist kill, equalizer down kill, this Supernova Dark Matter team runs out of juice quick.
For sure, but Supernova Dark Matter, their engines are in that Ezreal and in that Corki. So they are definitely playing, I would say, almost a very telegraphed game. You know, you want to play around mid, you want to play around bot lane. You want to make sure that these AD carries that go into the late game that scale super duper well are as juiced up as possible, as quickly as possible, and their comp leads around stuff like that. But I also really like the way they're playing into the strengths that are Aljun and Array, who are going to be on these picks. Because Aljun, you have to remember, this was a man who made, I would say, a very big splash in summer. 2024 was definitely a big year for him, but around summer was when we saw a lot of the marksmen. We saw the Tristana, but most importantly, we saw the Corki. Every mid laner still has that muscle memory in the back of their mind. So the concern about can Aljun pilot this Corki, I don't think is really a concern going into this game. And you already talked about the comfort of Array on this Ezreal. This is a staple pick of his. So comfort is there. The comp is around them. The ball is in their court. All they got to do is hit a slam dunk onto Supernova.
Slam dunk indeed. I do like the aggressiveness from certainly the younger, more prodigy-based composition for Supernova Dark Matter. It's been the statement talking point with a lot of these players. It's just a group of a lot of guys who people across tier 3 developmental leagues are really high on. Obviously, we've talked about this before, but you know, Popcorn Thomas stands out to me. Even Shimmer certainly are, and even
Yes.
Quokka. I would say everyone but Prank, unfortunately. Prank is a little bit of the old head of this team. But the fact that they're willing to play the team comp that's has to be agency-based, has to be engage-based, is a positive sign that they're bringing that confidence into game number 1, because anybody can play this passive double marksman comp where you're waiting for things to happen.
For sure. And I think, a lot of this catapults in Shimmer's hands, right? Because obviously we're looking at Quokka to be the big engage with that Magnet Storm, but Shimmer as a player has really been, I would say, an unsung hero of Supernova Dark Matter. He has only really been prevalent in the scene for this year, right? He was, somewhat in the scene of 2023, but 2024, I would say, was definitely his big year. And everyone is looking at him as this big mechanical jungler, this guy that can really put the aggressiveness to the test and sort of limit test in every single game. And so I think it really speaks volumes that this is a guy who is willing to take the backseat on champions like Vi. Sure, you want the kills, but you're setting up for some of those prodigy-based for your prodigy-based mid laner and your ADC in Popcorn and Thomas. Definitely, I would say, the sword of this team, whereas Shimmer is more of the hilt. So I love the development that Shimmer has been going for this past year, from going to a super duper aggressive carry-oriented jungler to now being more setup focused around his team. And I think really the only thing this guy is lacking, to get to that upper echelon of junglers in the tier 3 ecosystem, is that big result. So being able to get into playoffs here, being able to potentially even make it past the first round, would be huge for his career. It would be huge for all of the careers of the Supernova squad. But for someone like Shimmer, who has been chasing that high title for the whole entire year, to be able to end off on a high note would be an absolute dream for him, I would imagine.
You talked a lot about the playoff scenario, Quacks. I know we rushed into the game 1 draft, so we'll take some time to kind of discuss the situation. I'm actually going to let you plug a certain Quacks. Where did we already talk about this Noxus group's
I believe
playoff?
it was called something related to salt. I think it was a mine or something like that.
Down there.
Or something like that. I think it has something to do with the logo below us, but yeah,
Oh.
it could be like the salt mine or something like that, or salty rum back at the two. There's a lot of salt based. There's a lot of salt-based podcasts based on it these days, because we're called the NACL in Tier 2 for a reason. We got to play on it a little bit. But yeah, if you want to know the discussion about sort of how we think the playoffs will shake out, what we think of the teams individually, you can definitely check out the most recent episode that was uploaded today. And if we get any predictions wrong, you can tell it to our faces. We're going to be streaming here for a long, long time, hoping this series goes the distance. We'll also be live on Monday. Slayer, that's something else you guys got to remember. This is a super week to end us off. So, we'll be having games on Friday. Maybe we'll have a reschedule, and then we'll be back on Monday. So it is a war, ladies and gentlemen, over the weekend. So many games are going to be played. There's going to be a lot of heartbreak, but there's going to be a lot of chances to make your mark in the ACL.
Certainly. Couldn't said it better myself, Quacks, but to remind everybody at home just what the scenarios are. It's a little weird in this group with the fact that 2 of our playoff hopefuls haven't played as many games as the 2 locked in, but there are 2 teams sitting at 4-3 currently in the playoffs right now. It is Straw Hat Crew and Nanos Noobs. They have them locked for the moment. The 2 challengers they're playing tonight, Supernova Dark Matter and Weber State University, are 3-2. So they have there's some road to make up, but they have more games to play. And the most exciting part to me is the fact that the game difference, which for people who aren't too familiar, is the first tie-breaking decider for these standings. It is dead tied between 3 of our teams. Nanos Doom, Supernova Dark Matter, and Weber State go into this game all +2. And Straw Crew is not that much better. They are only +3, so they are barely above the mark. There is no room for comfort in this group, and we're about to get a little bit more of a taste to see just how everything plays out. We're getting through the latter half of the spectator delay, but on the other side, we'll see if Supernova Dark Matter can put themselves in a pivotal playoff position by taking a series of CCG Esports. To do that, they got to take game 1 and much more. We'll figure out the first part of that list in just a few. Appreciate the patience of the short intermission because we are live. Game number 1, Supernova Dark Matter on your blue side, looking to dictate the tempo of our opening match. CCG Esports looking to cruise control it to the late game with their double marksman Ivern comp that we've all been seeing for the past 2.5 months on every level of League of Legends. So we might have some little shenanigans with that aggressive Dark Matter team. Looking to get some wards down at the very least.
I like the proactiveness coming from the side here of Supernova Dark Matter, understanding that tracking Ivern, very volatile, especially because we have painted a picture of how important this champion is to the comp at large here for CCG, those two marksmen. Like you pointed out, Slayer, having an Ivern who is fed and ready to go, a very, very difficult hole to come out of. So I'm actually wondering if maybe Supernova are thinking about going for potentially some cheesy early game plays, trying to potentially interrupt this Ivern's first full clear and make use of the fact that it is slightly delayed when compared to other junglers. So we'll have to wait and see. Both junglers starting on opposite ends, though. Shimmer going to be on that top side. No surprise there. We've painted how important it is that the bot side be played for both of these squads. So there's no surprise to see both junglers will likely end up on the bot side of the map. 3v3, though, I do say I heavily favor Supernova Dark Matter if it comes to that.
Yeah, Vi early versus Ivern is a wipe, and then Ashe, Ezreal, certainly the two demanding factors in those 3v3s. We'll see a bit of a cheeky invade coming across here from Kryra. I mean, this guy, you know, everyone's hyped up Kryra as a potential future jungler for North America, and plays like this that inspire it. Invading on Ivern, Quacks. What do you think is that as the jungle main yourself there?
Ooh, I mean, I absolutely love it. We talked about just now the importance of bot lane, being able to split the map, going to be really important. Also, just denying resources away from Shimmer. Vi is a champion that doesn't really like to take risks or take chances on going for these aggressive plays early on in the game. So invading kind of out of her wheelhouse for the most part. So I like that he takes advantage of that. He goes right back toward his blue side as well, which is now ripe and ready for the taking. The one downside to it, though, is that he will not be on the bot side the same time as the Vi, but it looks like already Array and Trevor managed to get that shove. So if anything, they can go for a reset and just allow for that tempo loss that Kryra took to, you know, give him time to gain it all back.
Kryra will be gaining himself a 3-buff lead the way he's pronging these camps. But look at the roam from Trevor. The snap of a fingers and first blood earned by the CCG support off of that roam timer.
Beautiful roam coming out there from Trevor. He's known for plays like that, going in for the early roam. They get the early shove, and now Kryra looking for something on the top side, but I like how carefully Prank is playing. He understands that the wave is going to shove into him, so he doesn't have to necessarily go aggressive to hit those minions. He can just kind of let the wave do its own thing and play it passively at the end of the day. But it does mean Kryra gets his full clear, essentially, and won't really lose anything despite taking that red buff and a slight tempo loss as well.
Now, really great masterclass of early game jungling from Kryra. Even, you called it, saw that Shimmer thought, maybe I could come try and steal away some of these camps on the blue side after I lost my red buff. Not the case. They were all primed by Kryra, and he takes away all of his buffs on his top side to complete his clear. This is why so many teams hold this near Tier 2 pedigree level CCG Esports team so highly in the ACL. The way they're playing now, just dictating the early game so comfortably.
Good move coming out here from Kryra. We're probably just going to help Crimson shove the wave. Shimmer is on his way toward the top side, but they have so much vision on the Vi, but they're willing to take this 2v2, actually.
Wow, we got double support roams in the mid lane as well as Quokka makes an appearance trying to get on top of Aljun. Like you mentioned, both junglers make an appearance towards the top side. No summoners burn. Actually, do you see that Shimmer's flash was expended? Maybe trying to execute that kill onto Prank, onto Crimson, who was trying to find a kill onto Prank near his start.
But Cassante, the tank that he is, going to evade it.
Dredge line down. Clone used by Popcorn. Just poking and prodding. There's no real early kill threat for these two mid laners.
Yeah, absolutely. But Trevor is continuing to hammer away at this mid lane, putting Popcorn on the defensive, and it is netted not only Popcorn going down, having to expend that teleport, but he's also shoved under his tower with 10 CS deficit here. Aljun in control of the lane from minute 1, all due to how proactive this Nautilus has been. And it's going to get even worse because now we can see the reset Ivern just ready to take these camps. This is absolutely brutal for Vi.
Shimmer still wants to go in. Quokka over the wall, forces Cryo to flash back as the Ivern is pretty weak. Aljun trying to roam over. Array first.
Prank is here.
They do have the numbers because Array just gets the first kill. Equalize those numbers. Prank does not matter. It's a wipe for CCG. Prank gonna flash to at least kill off Aljun. But it's too little, too late. 3 kills back for CCG. But the slows from Thomas starting to pay a dividend. Trevor does have to quit the flash as well as Thomas pulls up to the party. But the party's over. The cake's already eaten.
2 for 1 in favor there of CCG. Really well played the flash from Aljun to create the space. The Corki going aggressive and then forcing that summoner out of Prank. At the end of the day, the Rumble going to get that kill, TP back to catch this wave. So a win con has been generated here for the side of Supernova Dark Matter, but an even bigger one in the 3-0 Ezreal is rearing its ugly head on the other side.
This is exactly what I remember seeing from Array, specifically Ezreal, and markedly how the team around him performs with Dragoon's Goons whenever we saw this Ezreal. Just leave him on an island. Array is never going to misplay and die, especially now with a lead. He's just going to constantly threaten Thomas. And you can just leave Trevor to do what Trevor likes to do. Exactly this. Hex flashing, looking for engages onto Popcorn. Does have the Pop Blossom, but they're just going to choose to go for the level 4 Quokka on this Rel. One more rocket should solidify, but Crimson will slam down as the Tofo strike and find a 5th kill for CCG.
Yep, it is going to be 5 in favor of CCG. Now they're going to pivot right on up toward the Grubs. They've got control of this objective. They've got control over the top side river. And you want these miracle stories of upsets happening so often in the ACL. You know, a team like Supernova Dark Matter. But the thing is, Supernova Dark Matter, when it comes to things they don't have compared to the side of CCG, it's that experience. Now we're going to see it solidified even more.
Yep, Shimmer picked off there, trying to go for the Grubs. Quokka trying to hold the whole 4 stack of CCG in place. Popcorn does have that Pop Blossom, but there's just not a lot of confidence to go in here with the Ivern brushes, not a lot of vision, and the gold lead that is very obviously starting to balloon. I mean, we are 8 minutes in, and this is over 3,000 gold.
4K gold lead, you highlighted it, Slayer. And all the while this has been going on, Array has managed to get a plate for himself. This Ezreal still 3-0. I have to highlight that, Slayer. So many advantages, so much going right here for CCG. And at the end of the day, it feels difficult to imagine how the side of Supernova Dark Matter are going to get out of this rut, because a lot of the gold that has been allocated for CCG has been on these marksmen. 3-0 Ezreal, 1-1-5 Corki, Aljun and Array are exactly where they want to be, if not better, at this point in the game. And these were the champions that we talked about in the case of SNDM. They've got to put them behind. They've got to put them on the defensive. They have not been able to do that. So how do you get out of it from here?
Wombo ultimate combos. At least you have the engage on your team for the agency, and you're seeing it with Quokka and Shimmer just locking Trevor down before Aljun can come, and Shimmer wants to go for more here. The Pop Blossom over the wall for Popcorn will not hit as the cease and desist is trying to hold Aljun in place. They're going to throw him into a wall, and without the Iron Shield close enough, we have a bit of a bite back for the Dark Matter side.
SNDM punishing the roam there from Trevor. They get the kills on to Shimmer as well as Quokka. Nothing there for Popcorn, though, so the Nico's still a bit starved. This Prank is going for a solo kill.
Yeah, drops the equalizer, gets the flash out of Crimson, who was playing a lot more confidence than his health bar dictated.
Yep. And Dragon, though, still up. We can see Kryra has made his way down there with Trevor. This Nautilus and Ivern, basically 2 peas in the pod here in game number 1. As we get an ult from Crimson.
Crimson sees an angle in, but takes a turret shot. The Flame Spitter is enough, and there's just too little respect from Crimson. Prank gets himself a second and picks up a bounty as well.
Yeah, Crimson, I mean, he was seeing red there, wanted to go for the solo kill, but it only ends in him seeing black and white. Prank managing to get his second of the game. This Rumble scaling on up. This could be the pick that Supernova Dark Matter look to when the game goes later, but at this point in the game, you gotta just concern yourself about the game going to the later phases. You get yourself CCG get themselves the dragon, so the scaling advantage is in their court. They've got the grubs as well. You need some form of a neutral objective in order to keep yourself relevant post 20 minutes. Otherwise, the scaling is going to be too much for you to handle. The rumble be damned. You need more if you want to keep yourself in this.
Need more, and luckily they can look towards their superstar jungler and Quokka to create with this Rel Vi combination. I'm glad that Supernova have been able to at least punish the aggressiveness. You see a lot of teams like of CCG's caliber. Once they start getting a lead, they start to limit test how much they can really get away with, and it does feel like we've kind of stabilized that momentum, stabilized the goal deficit. 2,000 is still mightily enough, and like you talked about, Quacks, it is all in the marksmen that have to carry the damage for CCG's comp, but at least it doesn't feel like CCG are just walking all over Supernova anymore in this early game.
And kind of another concern that we didn't highlight in the draft is just the damage profile for the side of Supernova Dark Matter. They've got essentially two magic damage users in Prank and Popcorn. This Nico and this Rumble are really going to be the brunt of damage here for the side of SNDM. And so you look in the inventory of Crimson, he's already got the Kinetic Rooker, which shuts down those champions immediately. And so then your concern becomes, how do we get through the front line? But you're focusing on the back line. There's just so many targets that I feel it's going to be a little bit overwhelming for Supernova Dark Matter. They've got two magic damage users. They don't have any real resources into Thomas, really their only big AD threat other than Shimmer, who is, again, looking to play facilitator role.
It's not like you can build an AP item for shielding when Kryra starts getting going on those cheap support items and those levels towards his shielding. Grub fight imminent. It seems like CCG were able to gobble up the first three, and Kryra, all of CCG really want to play for the stack. They got to teleport in, engage for Trevor. They have a lockdown Shimmer, already got him down and dusted, flashing to the wings, but Quokka and the Pop Blossom re-engage is going to at least make sure Shimmer survives for now. Break, it's a beautiful equalizer, takes down at least Trevor for now. Crimson on the back line forces Thomas to flash away. They have Aoju cornered without mana. What a snap engage from Supernova Dark Matter to really flip this grub fight on its head, but it's far from over now. Low health bars on both sides. Beautiful route comes across to make sure that Shimmer does fall. Grabbed up by Kryra, and now CCG feel they can step up. Crimson has a healthy bar of health leading towards him. Kryra steps back in, trying to get the grubs. They're going to try and play through Crimson, who goes back in, finds one, and Ray with damage from distance, trying to get it done as well, and the Flame Spitter from Sprague falls flat on its face. It's only Popcorn to run out to safety.
And it's the side of Crimson and Kryra. They re-engage the fight, and the Cassante is so damn tanky, Slayer. How do you burn through this health bar? Crimson burns through the entirety of Supernova Dark Matter. They get so many kills. It's a few back for SNDM, but 6 grubs in the waiting arms of the scaling comp that has been drafted by CCG. This game looking very rough for the side of Supernova 13 minutes in.
Saw the magic for a moment. The Quokka engaged with the Pop Blossom. Definitely stunted CCG, but it's a 5-0 Ezreal with a Triforce already done, a ton of gold in his pocket. You have a bounty on your support item Ivern, 0-0-9, and like you mentioned, Crimson is going to become unkillable in a lot of these spots. Aljun going to get that redemption we talked about from Kryra, and that's just enough for him to win his dancing 1v1 with Prank, who immediately has to flash out.
Prank forced to get out of there, and the Herald spawned on up, but we can just see how much vision has been laid down by CCG. They have complete control over the topside river. You can see Supernova are trying to get some members toward that topside. Prank has to go for the reset, but I imagine he is probably going to have to respond to the split push that is Crimson. And it just means that you don't have the numbers, and you don't have the damage either. You don't have the resources to take these neutrals. And CCG, before it can really even begin, they just shut them down in this mid game.
Oh, but Trevor almost getting picked in the exact same spot he was 5 minutes ago, and it nearly gets a Ray cooked as well. He has to Arcane Shift Flash. That's as much distance as Ezreal can create, so still, Dark Matter finding angles with their pick comp.
And they're going to try and look onto Array. Shimmer does have the cease and desist, but Kryra's on the corner.
My word, he went flying, but Shimmer gets the job done. The equalizer's long enough. The cease and desist follows through just enough. Kryra able to find one back under his tier 2 turret, but mission accomplished. Bounty gained off the 5-0 Ezreal. Crimson wants to make sure that Supernova Darkman are going to have to pay for it with his flank. He's flashing to try and slow Popcorn down, goes all out, executes his target to at least get one back in the name of CCG.
And suddenly CCG biting back here in this game. They lost their AD carry and they took Revenge Slayer. And not just in the form of kills, but Aojun has been silently split pushing on this bot side. The use of 6 grubs makes you so deadly on the side lane. And with a champion like Corki who loves that gold, we know it's going to be put to good use. And it feels like this dragon is going to be as well. They do get the target at the end of the day. They pick off Array, but they lose so much as a result. They pay for it in full. And it feels almost unjust how much CCG are taxing Supernova Dark Matter for every single misplay.
Doing a really good job at least finding these trades. Trevor over the wall. Where did that knowledge come from? See you later, Thomas. Turret aggro with this shield. Should have killed off Trevor for his transgressions, but it's once again the Ivern to bail out on that pick comp as more turrets are knocking down in the name of CCG.
CCG, they don't have to stop here. Sure, they don't have a minion wave, but they have got the buff that allows them to take the turrets, that still remaining. Plus the 6 grubs. They are tower-taking machines. And we're only 16.5 minutes into the game, Slayer. The Herald is still up. The members of CCG are still plenty healthy. They can pivot on up toward this objective. And Quokka, my friend, you are on the wrong side of the map.
Blast cones himself to safety, but it's a deterrent for now. Quokka, do not step foot up towards the topside river. The Herald is in control of CCG Corp. Does seem like some poking and prodding going in. Clone used to find some vision, but Shelly is done and dusted.
Yep. They're trying to push out this mid wave, but we can see Trevor, unafraid, knows that his team is there behind him. Has cost him his life a couple of times. Trevor has gone a bit too aggressive, but it wouldn't be Trevor if he didn't make plays like that. And it looks like he is not afraid to go for them again. He's stepping up in the face of 4, unafraid, undeterred, unflinching. And it is scaring off all the members of Supernova Dark Matter. They have got to retreat. They have got to find themselves. But CCG are not giving them an inch, Slayer.
Oh, arrow, field goal. No combo coming across. These ults not trying to find their mark.
They clipped him.
Cleanses the Pop Blossom. There's no cease and desist angle in, and a true shot barrage nearly makes sure Quokka pays for his transgressions. It's the rocket from Aojun. Picks up his other marksman where he left off, and the pick comp falls flat when the ults don't sync together for Supernova.
I mean, they managed to get a little bit of damage off onto Array, but he had the cleanse available, and he was well guarded there by Trevor. Trevor playing amazing protect your AD carry gameplay right there. And it just means that they weren't able to commit. They were afraid to go under the tower. They were afraid to go for the Ezreal. Now, though, you might see some unafraid gameplay here on the bot side. The tower is gone.
Shifty feet, though, and Quokka goes in for a 3-man Magnet Storm's going to root everybody up. Do they have enough damage enough to equalizer? The question is answered with a resounding no. Aojun and Array are still up, and they are free-firing. The dream engaged from Quokka does not matter because there's just not enough damage behind this Ashe or this Nico.
They're not done yet. They're going to keep on going. They take the tower. The 6 scrubs are so powerful. And Popcorn goes golden, but he's left to the Wolves. CCG, 9,000 gold at 19 minutes, Slayer. This is the power of an NACL team in Tier 3.
And they're really limit testing once again. They get the Nexus turret down. Quokka is alone before the respawns come across. Shimmer's going to say, see you later to Array. Grabs that first shutdown. Tom is able to step up. Prank back respawned as well. Health bars are hurting for CCG Esports. They're going to have to find a way out. Arrow going to sink onto Crimson. Trevor also going to try and sacrifice himself like every support will. Ivern's shield down onto Crimson as Kryra's going to try and fade away now. Prank chasing, but doesn't have the slow. Doesn't hit the E. Another flash committed from Crimson. So they bite off a little more they can chew, but it won't cost CCG Sports too much at the end of the day.
And Crimson going to keep running for the hill. Shimmer making his way around. Does have the blue pet, so should be able to catch up with usage of the bushes. But we can also see Kryra is in the area, has a shield of his own.
Shield, Redemption, Crimson will not rain down. Frank cannot get through that health bar any longer, and the long chase finds absolutely nothing but some sand.
But they do manage to get some level of priority. They are able to shift toward this bot side river, but realistically, how long are you going to be able to hold that for Slayer? You are down so much gold. The item advantage, the wallet difference alone makes CCG such a formidable opponent, one that you just cannot afford to fight at this point in the game. So you've got to concede that Dragon, despite having the priority to own that side of the map. You've got to concede the Baron. You are under the thumb of CCG, and unfortunately, they're not going to let you breathe for a second.
That is a Baron started off spawn virtually, and with 2 marksmen heavily accelerated on 2 and 3 items, Purple Worm is just like an earthworm you find in your backyard at this point for CCG. Supernova, once again, trying to see if they can find some sort of vision, maybe look for an engage, but the Iron Brushes holding up strong. Baron below 5k, Quack going to go in, Shimmer on the side. You can see Trevor is holding both Popcorn and Thomas in place, so Quokka dies on his own. There goes Popcorn, the Pop Blossom. Equalizer combo is nice onto Array, but it's not enough to find the kill. Thomas gets the shutdown on the Kryra, but look at Crimson just slam through the rest of the lineup. Double over to him. Array finds a fleeting kill on the back end, and it looks like CCG might not even need Baron to finish this one off.
The only thing they really need to do, left Slayer, is destroy that Nexus. They are so far ahead in this game. They have proved yet again why they are the top team in Noxus, why they are the seed 1 of 4. And boy, oh boy, they're going to take down this Baron. The Dragon is up as well. The world is their oyster. The game 1 is under their control. And Supernova, Dark Matter, this sun, it's about to go nuclear.
Only a matter of time, but CCG still doing it at record pace. They have a Dragon they could go for and take if they'd like, but definitely feels like even if they are the comp that's more based on passive play in the start of fights, they can kind of just barrel down mid lane, barrel down that open inhibitor bot side too, and just win this one.
For sure. They really don't have to force anything, but they have been forcing things all game, and it has constantly gone their way. And I have to think a lot of that credit I give over to Trevor, constantly roaming with this Nautilus from minute 1, putting Popcorn behind and making the game so difficult for the Nico to play. Immediately understanding the assignment of getting that AD carry ahead, getting Aojun and Array as fed as possible, and never letting up. This Nautilus, sometimes to his detriment, has constantly been the one engaging the fights and getting advantages for CCG as they will barrel down the top lane. They will take down that turret. They're in the base now. Eyes on the inhibitor. That is going down. And Crystal Arrow.
Yeah, it does snipe out Array, who does cleanse it, but he gets the engage down from Quokka. Popcorn has to go golden. Trade of kills at first as Kryra will fall, but watch the double marksman fly and soar high in the name of CCG. Double kill over to Aojun. Array gonna go golden in the face of Frank. He won't even let him find the trade kill. Last Nexus turret down, and it's a lock-in of a decisive Game 1 win for one of the titans of the Noxus group. 23 and a half minutes, not even, to get themselves a series lead.
And a worrying sign going into Game 2 for Supernova Dark Matter. This game was never ever close. It felt like it really feels like CCG are tip for tap above the rest of the teams in the Noxus division. And games like this, they show why. They have their own style of playing for Aojun and Array. They know exactly what they need to do, and they put their cards on the table, and they play them perfectly. This was a masterclass from start to finish, and SNDM, they're going to have to be cooking up something to use in game number 2, because as it stands, dare I say they're outclassed.
Certainly looked outclassed in the first game. CCG showing that going into playoffs strong might be a strength. Got to remember, folks, this is 3/5 of CCG Esports' NACL roster in the Tier 3 ACL system. But Supernova Dark Matter have the chance to bounce back, find themselves a series win that would really help their playoff chances. As like we mentioned before we got into that game, they are on the outside looking in currently in the Noxus group. Side selection going to be available for the Supernova side going into game number 2. We'll be live with that draft in just a short few, so stick right with us. Quick break as both teams want to get back into the action here. Game number 2 of our final regular season showcase on the Salt Mine. CCG Esports for Supernova Dark Matter. As the draft goes on, I have to apologize to all viewers at home because we did not realize an extra stake that is in this game. CCG Esports lost to Mirage Alliance Baguette, the other team that is currently the top of Noxus right now, but they were only going into this series 1 game ahead in game difference. So if
Yes.
CCG sweep Supernova here, despite the fact they lost to them, their only loss of the season, CCG will take the top spot in Noxus by 1 game difference. It's quite literally would be 15-3 for CCG versus 15-4 for Mirage Alliance.
And that would be a big deal for them, right? Because being able to get seed 1 means that you are going to face, I would imagine, a weaker opponent going into the playoffs. So seeding does have advantages here, ladies and gentlemen. It makes your road a little bit easier to start, at least for those first inaugural rounds. However, ease is exactly the word I would use to describe Game 1 Slayer. It was a quick, big banger here for CCG from start to finish. They had the game under their thumb and they never let go. Supernova gonna have a lot of ground to cover if they want to try and turn this series around and keep those playoffs hopes alive, because losing here, you are essentially leaving it to a hope and a prayer. Sure, you should be expected to win your other 2 series, but that might not automatically get you into playoffs. So you are essentially banking on some other playoffs ready teams dropping the ball in this last week of play. As we do fire away from the draft, Supernova on the blue side, immediately going to snag up that Yone.
Remember, everybody at home, it's full fearless. So every champ you saw from the last game is off the table for everybody, which is why the draft is shifted up, the bans shifted up, the Yone locked in. Immediate Akali Sejuani answer.
I love it.
I do want to say,
Yes.
the Yone, I believe, could go both Aljun or Crimson's way. Crimson's certainly
Yes.
a Yone player. Actually, I believe one of our first casts together, or a couple of our first casts together, Quacks was
Believe so.
watching a Crimson Yone masterclass.
Mm-hmm. And I do also really like that they snag away the Sejuani, one of the premier pairings where the Yone. So now maybe we are looking at something like the Jarvan to be paired up with the Yone as well if we want a response to that jungle pick right away. But it's looking like Supernova are going to index into the bot lane instead, open up that can of worms, going to lock in that Ziggs. Again, like you said, Slayer, this can be a Yone top. Something like a Ziggs mid lane is also possible. But against Akali, that is a dangerous game to play. So I would imagine Ziggs is probably going to be in that bot lane, not wanting to go against that assassin. That's never a fun time. So Supernova, though, interested to see where exactly their response is going to be. And it looks like it's going to be in the top lane. So they are leaving this Sejuani open and available. It leaves CCG with time to ban away some premier setup picks that could be good in that matchup. Meanwhile, though, yeah, they're going to pick away their bot lane.
I just realized, Quacks, I've tricked you with my graphical mistake. Apologies, everybody. These are actually the sides. So that's Supernova on the red side. Yeah, my fault. I forgot to switch the graphics rounds. But yeah, so that's Supernova Dark Matter is on that red side, locking in the Kaisa for Thomas. It's CCG Esports that are leaving Kryra and Trevor most of their facilitation on their team for that second phase.
Yep. So I am interested to see where this facilitation actually lies here for Supernova Dark Matter. They've got some heavy hitters in the Kaisa and the Akali, but you need more frontline, right? Especially against champions like Yone and Jax that just absolutely shred through tanks and squishies alike. You want to get something that can interrupt a potential engage, or, something like a last, or what is it, Fate Sealed or a Jax Leap. You've got to make sure those are being deterred. Sejuani, not going to be enough to stop those 2 threats. So I am looking, particularly at the top lane, I'm looking at Prank to get something, a good matchup into the Jax, but also something that can stop the engages from getting onto the backline of Supernova, protecting this Kaisa, protecting this Akali, letting this Akali also get into the backline of CCG as well. So lots of checkboxes for them to fill. But we'll have to wait and see what they are thinking going forward as the bans do fire away. Very top lane centered by CCG. Meanwhile, Supernova targeting that support pool.
It's funny, right? Like last phase 1 draft, Quacks, we knew exactly which comps we're getting once like the Ivern got locked in, once the Ashe Vi got locked in. This one, there's a lot of ways these 2 comps can go, right? I mean, CCG, I think it'd be fun to see if they lean pretty split push heavy. This, if you have a Yone and a Jax, might be fun to 1-3-1 it up here. So we'll see if they try and lean towards that. The Rakan with the Ziggs. I mean, this is Trevor through and through, right?
Yeah.
He even next to one of the most passive lane opponents or allies with his Ziggs, he still needs to find some way to play engage. Locks in the Rakan. Cry, we're going to grab up the tree that was left for B5. I would say pretty excellent turns to blind, especially because you don't really have to blind much with the jungle support combo.
No, you certainly don't, but you are going to get the counter pick here for Supernova Dark Matter on this top lane. You want something with engage, you want to be tanky. I think Gnar is a great option. Renekton, you would normally say would fit this bar as well, but against the Jax, it's just not going to happen. So I think Gnar, a very good and easy matchup for him to play in the laning phase. This is one of the best counters when it comes to dealing with Jax in those first few levels, and also scales well into the late game. It does mean that you can also potentially get those flank TPs. You can be there to deal with the side lane Jax, like you mentioned, Slayer. But then once it comes time for a team fight, you'll have Mega, you'll have Shove, and you'll be able to get the jump onto CCG. So I like the response here from Supernova Dark Matter. The question is, can they mechanically execute this comp? Because you look at ease of execution, and I would by far favor CCG, right? They've got very easy points of contention. The Yone and the Jax are to be played for. The Ziggs will be the side lane. You've got a lot of split pushing going on. 1-3-1, as you said, going to be volatile and vital for the side of CCG. They get those grubs. The game becomes very, very easy. Supernova, though, sure, they've got the engage comp. They've got the dive comp. They've got the, play aggressive style. But my big problem is this is a much more mechanically difficult comp to pull off. Akali has to get into the back line without getting one shot or picked off by Rakan or Maokai. Leona's got to do the same. Gnar's got to make sure that he gets those good flank teleports. And Kai'Sa, mechanically difficult to pull off, right? So there are certainly some nooks and crannies, some kinks to iron out. I think that Supernova Dark Matter have got to get going here for game number 2. But if they can smooth those out, if they can go into game 2 with a clear conscience, mentals refreshed after game 1, and understanding the assignment of game 2, they could easily take us to a game 3, Slayer.
You use the phrase backline. This is one of the few drafts where I don't even know if there's gonna be a backline. It's only 6,
it's
right?
tough.
It's like Kai'Sa gonna jump in. Gnar is ranged, but you're opening fights for Mega. I like the point you made about here. CCG are in a unique position where, yeah, they do have the engage tools of a Rakan, Fate Sealed for a Yone to snap engage in fights. You can obviously use Nature's Grasp for Maokai to start a fight, but they, in a 5v5, like a crock pot of everybody getting thrown on top of each other, which is what most of these champions are drafted to do. Draft-wise, they lose. So I am really curious to see if we're going to see that meticulous, 1,000 cuts to death sort of style of get Aljun ahead, throw him on a side lane. Who's going to match him? Akali. You'd hope he's ahead by that point. Throw Jax on the other side lane. Gnar, will it struggle at points to match the Jax split push ability? And if you're spreading those two out, you're taking away from what Supernova Dark Matter want to do, which is, layer these Solar Flare Glacial Prison ultimates into everybody else diving in for a big team fight. Very intriguing position for CCG to play through. A lot less simplistic compared to their last draft.
Absolutely. And a lot riding on this game, too, here. Slayer, Supernova Dark Matter, they needed an ace up their sleeve to turn this series around. And the comp you see before you is going to be just that. But the question is, will it be enough? A loss here means that the idea of getting into playoffs isn't necessarily in just their hands anymore. It means that things are going to have to go right on the other side of the bracket. So they are in control of their own destiny for this game. The question is, what can they make of it? CCG, though, on the other hand, looking for that 2-0, looking to get to the top spot of the Noxus division, avoid any hard opponents going into playoffs. Again, some stuff riding on this series, and I am excited to see where we go into game 2.
Glad you pointed it out, Quacks, because a loss here for CCG locks them second seed. They lost the head-to-head. They lost that to head-to-head, which is the second tiebreaker in the very complex way ACL figures out their playoff scenario. So Quack said it so eloquently. I'm going to put it simply to throw us into break. Supernova Dark Matter, you get a win here, you still control your destiny for playoffs. If not, you let it slip out of your grasp a bit. CCG Esports, you win here, top seed out of Noxus. You lose here, second seed out of Noxus. We'll find out which one of those two realities is going to play out on your very familiar battleground arena of Summoner's Rift. We'll see you live from there in just a bit.
Don't catch no feelings. Watch me. Watch me. Sit back and watch. Sit back and watch. Sit back and watch. If it ain't got style, I ain't with it. I ain't with it. If it ain't got style, I ain't with it. Look. If it ain't got style, I ain't with it. I ain't with it. If it ain't got style, I ain't with it. Look. Watch me. Sit back and watch. Watch me. Sit back. Sit back. Watch me. Sit back and watch. Sit back. Sit back. Sit back. Sit back.
The stakes couldn't be bigger for a game 2 here between Supernova Dark Matter and CCG Esports. We're on to the Rift, hoping for a much more competitive game. CCG took the series lead off of a 21.5-minute win. We're looking to see if Supernova still have something in the tank with how much is on the line for them, Quacks.
For sure. This would mean CCG getting themselves locked for top 1 in the Noxus division, thus bypassing any potential difficult opponents in the playoffs. A team like this has been thinking ahead for a long time with how dominant they are. Playoffs have been locked for several weeks now. They just want to play to improve their standings. Well, they can do it right here, right now. On the other side, though, Supernova got to worry about getting into playoffs in the first place. They started out so promising, 3-0, but in the weeks that followed, it has been anything but glorious, as Popcorn getting engaged on Trevor, playing to his strengths and just constantly roaming.
And gets his mid laner a very positive trade. Popcorn also not starting Doran's shield on this Akali. It's a Doran's ring, so not going to be able to just kind of passively heal up. Trevor is just all about this lane as we see actual lane swap is fully developed here. It's just the buddy system in mid and top right now for CCG.
Nothing going on bot lane, though, which does give Thomas a little bit of room to just free farm on this Kai'Sa. We can see the resources put to good use. We know Thomas is an incredible player. We've seen him on the broadcast before, so interested to see how this comp from Supernova Dark Matter actually shakes on out. We put a lot of emphasis on Popcorn and Thomas, kind of the X factors going into the season, and probably two of the most mechanically promising players on this squad now, going to be relied on to carry them to a game number 3 and to keep those playoff dreams and hopes alive, or at the very least in their hands, because again, a loss here would mean playoffs are not in their control solely anymore. This would be the last game for which that is possible, and they're looking to extend that duration even further.
A lot of lane reshuffling going on as landed Thomas in a 1v2 that he does not like. Early flash out of the Kai'Sa. Big power point. We'll see if CCG decide to revisit as the early lane goes on. But the flip side is Array is in his own 1 versus, well, make it a 3 stack here. Not even going to burn the flash. Going to give over first blood. Prank going to snag that one up. Exactly where you want the gold to go and exactly the start you want if you're Supernova.
Absolutely. They understood Trevor was on the bot side of the map. They punished the over-roaming from the Rakan, and they laid waste to the Ziggs. And now Array still has the flash, does commit the teleport, but there could be a chance at some point for Quokka to revisit that side of the map. But you can see it roams through mid, going down toward the bot lane, just trying to alleviate pressure from Thomas on that side of the map because he did burn that flash. Popcorn takes a tower shot.
I like this chess match from Aljun. He's going to flash. He doesn't know where Popcorn was in the shroud.
Face.
It was such fun interaction there. You know, Aljun uses the spirit form to get back to the turret to force Popcorn to take a turret shot, but we all know Yone has to come back out of that spirit realm somehow.
Yep. He comes out, but he does not get his flash, does not maintain that summoner spell at the end of the day. And a lot of flashes being burned here in this early phase. Quokka's going in.
Right, stun back from Crimson. Trevor nearby. Keep up to Kryra, hovering in his native brush as the tree he is, but nothing more, nothing less. Just a big stack on the bot side. There's Popcorn using his flash, trying to go in, but we might get engaged towards the bot side. There's Trevor to pull the trigger. In goes the twisting advance from Kryra, and without Thomas's flash right on cue, we expected it. CCG punish him and send him to his death.
And Trevor pulls the trigger like you said, Slayer, and all of CCG descend on the Kai'Sa without the flash. They get the kill onto Thomas, give it over to Kryra. Thomas, though, the silver lining that he does have that teleport, so will be able to return to the lane. But still, the ability to repunish this Kai'Sa, very, very much a possibility for CCG if they choose to go that route. But the Grubs are spawning in a little less than a minute, so we expect the action to veer its way toward topside.
Dragon spawns. Immediately jumped up by Shimmer. He's going to start that one up. Kryra not too far away, but gotta remember these are still some wacky lane assignments, so additional pressure, pressure lane prio gained. Does look a little bit different. Maybe not for Supernova, as they have landed back in their normal scenarios. I'm curious, Quacks, how long do CCG want to hold this solo XP per game for Array on the Ziggs, do you think?
I feel like it just is fine, at least for the time being, but you've got to make sure that that vision is kept up, right? Because we saw what happens when you don't have the vision necessary to protect the Ziggs. You get descended on by 3 people. So as long as they are able to track where the members of Supernova Dark Matter are, solo laning this Ziggs, I don't really find an issue with it, especially with the Grubs coming up soon. And by soon, I mean literally right now. Array being here is going to be beneficial to fighting.
Both mid laners grab their ultimates. Same can be said for these top laners. Frank, the only one nearby towards the Grub plays, though, like you mentioned, Trevor. Can make sure that wave gets shoved in. Kryra on the Maokai, not the best at burning through the Grubs. Slowly taking them down. And it doesn't seem like Shimmer's going to want anything to do with them. Just going to take the trade that we all know. Dragon for first 3 Grubs.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, though, definitely favoring CCG for that trade. The side lane threat, the tower-taking machines that are Jax and Ziggs giving over that buff, going to be very valuable for them later down the line, and likely going to just give them immediate results, a gold influx toward the Jax and Array, very possible.
Whoa, Quokka flashes to get the stun. Alger has to expand the Fate Seal defensively. So Supernova really making it a point to try and shut this Yone down as much as possible in the early stage.
Really trying to make sure that Aojun doesn't have smooth sailing like he did in game number 1. Like you said, just trying to shut down this Yone. One of the carry picks alongside that Jax here for CCG in game 2. Shimmer going to try and help deal with the other one. At the very least, just going to shove this wave in. Probably not going to go for a dive. Shimmer does not yet have that ultimate. And so Crimson has Flash, has the ultimate, every defensive tool in the book. And this is also just a difficult champion to dive. But it looks like they might actually go for it.
Oh, Shimmer just got Glacial Prison. He's got ult up. They're going to chain them together with the Gnar. Ultimate Crimson, though, does not fall. He flashes away distance. Prank going to hop back in with the turret aggro on Shimmer, but he doesn't get the job done. Busted dive, kill to Crimson.
A major overforce coming out there from the side of Supernova Dark Matter. Jax, one of the champions that is so damn difficult to dive. And even with Kryra not there, I find it difficult that they would have been able to finish the job. But in the end, it is a kill going over to the side of CCG. They will pick up yet another advantage. Kryra will get the reset, go toward that bot side, and continue to further his influence around the map on this Maokai.
Look at how Reza and Trevor have been able to take down these plates. Got 2 of those down. Here's the volatile lane, though. Popcorn in the shroud. I think Alju's got no shot in the world to survive this one. Popcorn gets his kernels going.
Popcorn with the solo bolo onto Aojun. And the Akali going to get some stacks on that Dark Seal. When you are Supernova Dark Matter, you've got to make sure that you leave everything on the field this time around. So going for a snowball item, I usually caution against it in games like this, but I feel I feel like with stakes like this, you've got to go for the snowball potential. You've got to be playing 4 kills and 4 strengths when your back is against the wall like this.
Old, dead, even. Grubs and Drakes, the only real split that we see so far. But the tower-taking threat already becoming very much so big-time play, especially with the one factor we didn't talk too much about. I mean, obviously it's a Yone Jax solo lane, but Ziggs, you know, that silly satchel charge can just burst open the first turret. Maybe that's what CCG know and are relying on here with the 4 stack towards the bot side. Glacial Prison in, gonna miss. Trevor dashes at a perfect time. Still gets Kryra to throw Nature's Grasp out. It's going to root out a ton. Quack is low. Big Infernal Bomb down. In goes Aojun. Gets the execute at the max range of his Spirit Form.
For sure, Aojun going in for the aggressive play, but they're not done yet.
Yep, Kryra sets up another one. Popcorn low. Has to expend his own flash. So it seems like Supernova may have to secede first turret here because CCG are relentless.
And look at the other side of the map. We haven't checked in on Crimson for a long time. But this Jax going to gain control over the top side of the map in preparation for his team arriving to the second spawn of Grubs. 6 Grubs over to this Comp Slayer. Absolute nightmare fuel for the side of Supernova Dark Matter. And sure, they might gain control of the Dragon Pit as a result of all of the shifting from CCG going up toward that top side. But it is not going to matter as much. Popcorn going to look for another solo kill.
Popcorn is angry, and he's about to dish out another serving onto Aojun, who does dash over the wall to safety, but clear advantage between the two mid laners going to Supernova's way so far. Kryra, though, engage onto Quokka. Trevor and Array nearby. So is Thomas, though. Maybe just a bit of poking and prodding, but does seem like foreshadowing for a big skirmish around these Grubs that Kryra immediately starts up as Quokka has to hex flash out of the pit.
And they're going to just bully the side of Supernova Dark Matter out of this area, except for Quokka, who goes in way too deep, but they're not going to commit onto the target except Aojun.
Oh my god. What a play from Quokka. He flashes away, but hits the solar flare. Aojun couldn't even move, and now it's panic time for CCG. They thought they had these Grubs locked up, but with a blink of an eye, now it seems like we're going to split these Grubs. 5v4 for the time being. Aojun does not have teleport to join the fight. Don't know how much more CCG want to stick around. There's still some very valuable ultimates, engage tools for Supernova Dark Matter to pull the trigger on, and yeah, they're just going to give up the split. That's massive against the split pushing comp.
Yeah, they managed to punish the overextension there from Aojun. Despite the Yone dealing a lot of damage, he is a very squishy target, and he gets squashed there in that exchange. 3 Grubs tying it up here for Supernova Dark Matter and denying such a pivotal objective from CCG the second time around. And I love what they're doing. They're going for the reset. Sure, they're going to be under siege in the mid lane, likely lose a plate here, but they will have room to potentially fight for this Dragon. Crimson on this top side, matching with Prank. Neither have TP, so it's a 4v4. And we've said it so many times, Slayer, it is the Jax and the Yone that want to carry CCG in a lot of these fights. If you don't have both, the fight is not as easy.
Doesn't help as well that Trevor didn't have ult, just actually takes over. So quickness available for Trevor. Does seem like a looming 4v4. Or maybe 4v3 is inbound. Supernova really trying to flex that they have the man advantage. And Shimmer
isn't here
on this tanky Sejuani really wants to look for ins alongside Quokka. Like you mentioned, Aojun really trying to shove in the stop wave pings. He's going to keep on pushing to try and amp up the pressure.
He's trying to get himself a flank angle, but all he's doing is separating himself from the rest of the team. We can see Popcorn so many times wants to go for the solo kill 1v1s, wants to match him in an anime battle between ninjas of Ionia. But it's looking like Aojun has no interest. He is saying, oh, hell no, not interested. I prefer Aurelia. And with that, it looks like getting the prio in the mid lane, forcing Popcorn toward the bot lane. They've got the prio, and they've got the dragon.
The power of these push-heavy champions. Array is just constantly forcing Thomas to catch wave after wave, and you already highlighted the fact that Popcorn has to catch Aojun's push as well. Just the small things the CCG does right to make sure they avoid a pretty perilous spot if they'd gone down 2 Drakes without 6 Grubs in their hand.
And it does...
Oh, hold on, Quacks. This is Crimson's worst nightmare that he just hops around. Who wants to mess with the champ now?
Nobody wants to mess with the champ. Crimson getting on out of that 1v2, but it will mean that the Jax is forced to take a reset. Supernova Dark Matter going to have a temporary numbers advantage, it looks like, for which they will use to gain control of this topside river. The question is, do they start up this Herald? I mean, Kryra is here, but he's backed up by his bot lane and Aojun.
Shimmer and Kryra in their own 1v1, both trying to drop down the ultimates. Inferno Bomb going to come out from Array as well. Good amount of chunk down onto Supernova, but it seems like both parties might just want to reset away from this Herald.
And Prank now no longer Mega, so the threat of team fight significantly hampered here for Supernova Dark Matter, and it looks like CCG want to try and force a fight with this timer that they have now gained. We can see Crimson slowly pushing out that wave. Will be able to join up with his squad as well, and the full 5v5 CCG team will be made a reality. And I don't think Supernova Dark Matter are ready to take care of that just yet. They don't have the Mega. They don't have the Glacial Prison from Shimmer, so they don't have that pick potential. They're not going to try and chance it.
Just routinely spreading Supernova thin is the plan for CCG. Catching these side waves, they're always having the advantage in that aspect, and it's created this weird fallacy where the threat of a fight seems to loom, but CCG have found their last two neutrals by making sure there is no fight. Kryra is just going to have really no contest on this Rift Herald.
Nope, he's going to be able to take that one down. And it doesn't even look like they're going to need it in order to take this mid lane objective. Quokka, the only one playing defense for that tower. Not going to be enough, so they could set their sights on other avenues. But Quokka's setting his sights on Ray.
He just went for his own Leona sec, and it falls flat. The Zenith Blade Flash combo does not get a Ray. Aljun able to Fate Seal back over the wall, but Popcorn executes him. No salt, no butter. Trevor, with the quickness, does get a good charm. They're on to Shimmer, tanky Sejuani, but Thomas and Popcorn, they really can't get close enough, so they just kind of have to watch as Shimmer slowly watches his health bar drain. He's able to evade a couple bombs from Array and get himself out.
And it's a 1-for-1 at the end of the day. Quokka falling down, going way too deep, but it does open up an angle for Popcorn to go in. Gets the assassination onto Aljun for what feels like the millionth time this game. Popcorn really just wanting to put this mid lane matchup to shame. Even if they lose the game, at the end of the day, he can say, I beat you in several different 1v1s. It's the Jensen Faker paradox all over again here, Slayer. But for the time being, it's looking like CCG still firmly in control of this game. They still also do have the Rift Herald, right? So they can use that wherever they want to. The last tier 1 tower that CCG have to deal with is in that top lane, but it is still plenty healthy. So I wonder if they're just going to try and barrel it down. We can see Kryra is on the top side of the map, so they could make that happen, but it is a bit of a risky play because you can just see how many members of Supernova are on the other side of the map ready to jump Aljun at a moment's notice.
I'd advise some patience and caution, especially because Aljun, I mean, he's just dead, right? Popcorn holds him in space.
Probably.
Doesn't have the flash to lean on. Does actually, but he goes to the spirit form and he's just buying time, seeing how far he can go before he goes to the real spirit form, the Death Realm. Third kill over for Popcorn as he goes on a killing spree, and that Herald does get used top, and it's going to be for a lot more than just one tier 1 there, Quacks.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is the specialty of CCG. This is the specialty of a lot of the top teams in the ACL. Sure, you get a kill on one side, but you look at the other side of the map, it's 2 towers gone. CCG just getting the better of the gold trade at the end of the day. And what we saw in game number 1 was purely a wallet diff at 21 minutes, right, Slayer? Every fight could be won because the wallets of CCG were just that much heavier, and it's plays like that that make games like we saw in game number 1. This time around, though, Supernova Dark Matter playing a much cleaner game. The gold lead really only limited to about 2,000 in favor of CCG. And like we said so many times before, Supernova Dark Matter have their own way to scale on in. They've got a dragon. The third one, though, going to spawn in about 15 seconds, so both teams posturing to fight for this.
What really worries me going forward for Supernova, though, is how much of the map CCG have control of with all those tier 1s down. A lot of teams that are able to knock down all 3 tier 1 turrets this early usually end up winning games with how much map control they have. But for now, CCG, you know what they don't have control of? The Drake pit. As Shimmer and Thomas are taking that assignment, trying to burn through the first Hextech Drake, but Crimson on the front line, going to start off the fight. They have Aljun teleport coming through as well. First 5v5 in the Nature's Grasp, roots up all of the tanks and burns through Quokka. Fate sealed on the back line with a beautiful charm from Trevor as well. Forces both Break and Popcorn out. Thomas with the Killer Instinct, trying to see if he can execute Crimson. He goes back over the wall. Popcorn trades his life to make sure that Crimson falls, but that is the only scrap that will be found from Supernova as Aljun is hounding onto Shimmer. The green smite won't be enough. The spirit form prevails. Aljun gets his sweet revenge. 3 kills for CCG Esports.
He flashes to try and secure the kill onto Prank, but Prank will get on out. Beautiful team fight there from CCG, and Aljun with a beautiful Fate Seal to keep the pressure up. They burn down Quokka before the fight begins, and with a numbers advantage, Trevor gets the green light, Aljun gets the green light, and it's a lights out for Supernova Dark Matter. Second Drake secured by CCG, and the game officially in their hands.
Gold lead, Drake count. And the map control we've already talked about. World is the oyster of Kryra and company. I am intrigued to see how they'll decide to play it. Speaking on how unique of a comp they've drafted, with side lane threat being really the pivotal pressure point.
For sure. Shimmer gonna try and farm his own jungle, but we can see Trevor. Man, this man just has his own style of games. This is the Mickey X, or not the Mickey X, this is the Hillisang of NA Tier 3, dare I say it.
Yeah, you just saw it there. I mean, he's had to flash over walls, but he flashes into his own jungle to find that Prank had teleported behind him with Mega. And our Supernova this bold, they found one pick onto the CCG support, and with Crimson on the bot side, they're just going to try and sneak this Baron. CCG have snuffed this one out, though. With Kryra spotting it out, Crimson's going to get a back-to-buy an item and likely teleport in with a full health bar. Supernova have the main advantage, and Shimmer wants to go in. They find an angle onto Array. Array has to use South Charge to get out, but Popcorn gets the perfect execution. Fate still on the backside. Quokka and Thomas are able to stay safe. Alju doesn't have enough damage. He gets stunned up, and here comes Prank to throw the house at him. Second pick over for Supernova Dark Matter. They can't go for the Baron, but boy, are they standing tall when they need to in Game 2.
And they force CCG out of their shell for the first time this series, Slayer. It doesn't net them the Baron, but it nets them kills. But Shimmer might be a little too long for this world.
It's a tank fight. Tree versus Boar with a very classy Rakan waiting by. They'll hark Crimson over to find the kill, and they'll gift it over to him to make him even more of a juggernaut on his 3-in-1 Jax. Oh, wow,
and Shimmer going down. We're in the exact same place here, Slayer. Deja vu. In the span of a minute, we go from SNDM to the Baron. CCG, they get the tiniest incremental advantage of shutting down Shimmer, and suddenly they're the ones on the Nasher.
Baron, below 5k, spotted out by Supernova. They do not have a smite. It's going to have to be hope and prayers. Maybe Popcorn going in, Prank trying to steal it, but Kryra will secure it. Big charm from Trevor, knocks Popcorn out in the middle of his combo. Tons of charms, but Thomas will find the first kill onto Trevor. Kryra gets a big smash down, re-engage, but they've lost all their damage dealers. It's just Prank and Quokka, but Prank does not have enough of a health bar, but he's got the damage to slam Ayajun down. It's only Kryra with the Baron up, and he won't even be long for this world now, as Shimmer has him marked. And it's going to be a long, slow, painful cut down for good old-fashioned Spider-Man. And he doesn't want to fall at all. Flashes over the Glacial Prison, and he'll survive with the Baron, but boy, was it costly.
It was certainly costly. Spider-Man, Kryra, the lone man to tell the tale, has the Nasher buff still in inventory. But Supernova Dark Matter fighting back when it matters most. Popcorn getting the execution onto Array in that backline, and then immediately pivots that fight once it comes up again into an advantage with this Akali. We said it was going to be a difficult comp to execute, Slayer. We said it was more mechanical, but the mechanics on Popcorn and Thomas, they're nothing to scoff at. These are the X factors of Supernova Dark Matter, and it might just be the players that get them a Game 2 win.
Still down in the gold department, but certainly stagnated the growth that CCG has been able to have in that regard. The big point here that really could break the game open or even it back out is going to be this next Hextech Drake, but we may have action before that as Popcorn is caught trying to escape, and one way to knock down Akali is to stun lock him, but even through a charm, a stun, and more, Popcorn dashes out safely.
And that's four ultimates immediately expended there by CCG. They don't get a kill in return. Shimmer will be able to just walk that one out. But the priority is so in favor of CCG. The pressure on this bot lane has to be responded to. That lone Baron buff on Kryra creating so much time for CCG to play with. They're going to just try and knock down this base. And with not enough members of Supernova Dark Matter on this side, they're going to do it.
This is Freaky Friday ACL edition. Thomas is TPing back in after knocking down the tier 2 turret. Watch to see how much damage he can get out as he is unmarked on the backside. It's the AD carry for Supernova holding CCG at bay, and they are just starting to run through the top seed potentially out of Noxus. 2 kills already picked up. Popcorn and Thomas doing it all down. Aljun goes for the Fate Sealed, gets it onto Thomas. He's going to at least find that AD carry kill. Re-engaged though from Quokka is going to lock in Aljun for his 7th death. 2 times in the last 2 minutes. Supernova Dark Matter 4-man CCG.
And the team fights are coming through, Slayer. They're managing to bite back in game number 2. And finally, for the first time this game, it feels like their efforts will be rewarded. The Hextech Dragon available for the taking. Kryra is still up, but doesn't have the flash. Could look for a steal, but I don't know if he wants to chance it. He has a gold bounty in inventory, but a teleport is coming through from Crimson. They want to go for a fight.
All gas, no brakes to the CCG team, and they can just burn through Shimmer before the Drake gets low enough. It's a complete hot potato, 4 HP, but it's picked up by Shimmer. Grabs the coveted Drake for Supernova Dark Matter, but the fight is still far from over. Trevor gets a big charm engaged, but doesn't have any damage behind it. It raised far over the wall. It's just a bunch of poke and damage bruises left, but Drake count evened on the clutch smite from Shimmer.
Shimmer goes down, but he goes down for a purpose. Secures that dragon, denies the soul point away from CCG. And this is about as even as we are going to get for these two teams. Slayer, Supernova Dark Matter have been holding on by their clutches this entire time. It was a 2,000 gold lead around 10 minutes ago, and it's still a 2,000 gold lead. It matters less and less as the game goes on. And SNDM setting themselves up to try and take this game number 2. They are not going down without a fight.
And they still have the power to dictate a lot of this game. Remember, the power of a Gnar Sejuani Leona engage is really threatening, and it's really been able to break up what CCG want to do in these fights. We talked about in the draft, and Quacks were seeing it. In these big, 5v5, 4v5, 4v4 scenarios, it's just really difficult for CCG's comp to navigate.
For sure. I mean, they want to try and go in for the backline, but this is the risk of doing that. Aojun feels so squishy at this point in the game. He goes for the Fate Seal, but he doesn't leave alive. And now Crimson, oh boy.
All right, Zonya's is the Solar Flare, but he's got no pals coming to bail him out. It's a 3-man Counter-Strike stun. Popcorn going to follow him. Crimson really just doesn't want to die. He's claiming as many flashes as he can for this death. Will finally fall to Popcorn. On the other side, CCG looking for a pick onto Prank, trying to stack up the Mega Gnar bar, but he will finally get it through in the last second. Gets the Mega Ultimate off. Prank survives, and now Thomas sees a window to go back in. Gets slowed up by the saplings, though. It's CCG on the back foot, something they're not familiar with in this series. And they won't have to pay any more than Crimson.
And CCG, they try to look for the return kill onto Prank, but the Gnar gets to Mega in the nick of time. Quack with the Aegis gets to his top laner in the nick of time. Supernova Dark Matter, do you believe the stars align for them to take game 2?
Take game 2 and potentially, whoa, camera, you're crazy. Take potentially themselves to a game 3 that could keep playoff control in their hands. Shimmer using those Hex Gates to escape a very treacherous jungle. And Quacks, I can feel the pressure building. This Baron really could decide this entire game.
And pay attention to Popcorn. 8, 2, and 5 on the Sakali. Has the Zhonya's Hourglass in inventory. So a lot of playmaking on the table here for the mid laner of Supernova Dark Matter. Baron is up at the current moment. CCG with control of the river, but it feels like every single time they gain control, Supernova Dark Matter now have the ability to wrestle it back here into this game. Prank about to go Mega means they can walk in with impunity and try to reclaim some territory that they lost.
A lot of flashes available on these facilitating champions. All ults available. It's really coming down to controlling these side lanes. Bot side with that open inhibitor is pushing in CCG's favor. Prank and Thomas have teleport to try and match. Remember, there are 6 teleports available in this game, and it can get pretty crazy. As Supernova go for a team reset and secede vision control of the pit for now.
They're going to secede. They're going to wait for Prank to get Mega yet again. You can see him on the other side of the map. He's going to build up some of that fury. Has teleport to join the fight, so...
Oh, but Trevor...
CCG, they've got to be snappy with when they choose to engage.
Trevor might have just found the angle to send CCG to the top seed. Locks Thomas up with a beautiful Aojun Fate Sealed, and now the fight is broken open. Shimmer gonna fall as well. Popcorn has to perfect execute towards the base. Trevor might have just called game and series.
Trevor, you beautiful human being, getting the two-man quickness followed up there by Aljun. They eliminate 3 members before you can even blink, and suddenly Supernova Dark Matter are left to the wolves.
And they're done. A beautiful double Counter-Strike stun. Popcorn has to go into the stasis. There is no wave. Popcorn's buying a lot of time, but it's 5 versus 1, 5 versus none. It's only Quack on the respawn. 1 snap engage from Trevor, and the juggernauts of CCG Esports just shut out Mirage Alliance from the top seed. They're going to the playoffs as the #1 team from the Noxus division.
CCG, there were a little bit of doubts creeping in here for game number 2, Slayer, but those get quickly silenced. Supernova Dark Matter gets silenced in game 2 as well. The stars, we said, could have been aligning, but unfortunately CCG, Trevor in particular, finding a beautiful flank. Prank wasn't in the area, wanted to gain that fury, so they understood the timer they had to go in for the engage, and they immediately put their foot on the gas, 100 miles per hour, and they run over Supernova Dark Matter. What a decisive way to end the game. And what a way for us to cover them. This was the first amount of coverage we had for CCG. And teams going into playoffs, beware. These guys are looking to go all the way.
It's going to pain Norm if he's still listening and any Mirage Alliance Baguette fans, but that officially wraps up the top of the group by 1 single game. Both Mirage Alliance Baguette and CCG Esports.
Tiniest of margins.
They both end 7-1. The difference being one team is going to be 15-3 in game score. The other one is going to be 15-4. That both teams sheer dominance in their group.
Yeah.
And it's just the finite little inches that turn into miles between this group. On the other side, Quacks, Supernova Dark Matter, gonna have to rely on, they're gonna have to rely on Weber State and Nanos Noobs having a bit of unfortunate end to the season if they want to get in at 5-3. And that's if they win their next 2 matches.
And I mean, one of their matches is against Weber State, so they do have the opportunity to take them out of the equation. But Nanos Noobs, that's a story that is completely out of their control. So now they're hoping to play to their best for these final 2 matches that they have going for the final week of games. But they're also hoping Nanos Noobs to turn into the latter half of their team name, hoping to become 5 Noobs at the end of the day. So a nail-biting way to really see what the fate of Supernova Dark Matter is going to be. This is a team, I'm not going to hide it, Slayer, that I want to see in the playoffs. SNDM, I know a lot of people behind the scenes. Cubby, a caster brother of a mine, one of the coaches. So to see a team like this succeed, to see some development in the NAC would be a dream come true. I hope they make it. I hope we get to see them because there's a lot of promise, as we saw in game number 2 in particular.
A lot of promise, a lot of excitement still to come for the Noxus group. We've had enough of Noxus today. How about we flip to their familiar foes in Demacia Group? Game 3 on the mainstream between Converse University and Next Level Esports. Converse, if you listen to our episode that dropped today, have all the control to go on a miracle run, but they have to win out in a do-or-die Game 3. So myself and Quacks are going to say sayonara for tonight. But we'll see you guys maybe even earlier this weekend, certainly on Monday, as we continue to figure out more of the clues to the playoff picture of this ACL fall split. Until then, enjoy your weekend, show some love to the mainstream, and we'll see you sooner rather than later.